Hello YouTube, it's Philip here, and today I will be showing you a deck primer for my Ange Bounce deck. This is a very offensive deck and can combine offense with solid defense. In this video, we will go over a basic deck skeleton and some of the combos of the deck. As always, we'll start with the Lyric deck. First we have levels 0, 1, and 2 of Ange Center. Our level 3 will be Center Ange level 3. She has an Enter ability, which will return one of our opponent's Signy to their hand and also allows to draw a card. This instantly opens a hole in the opponent's field for us to deal damage to their life cloth. The free draw is also nice. Her second ability is a once per turn action ability, which allows us to power up one of our virtual class Signy by 4000 power for the turn. This will make it so that we won't lose a battle in any single Signy zone and fuels the ability of our Signy Ars Amal 2434. On to the assist lyrics. First are the Lise and Toko level 0s. For our level 1s, we start with Assist Lise level 1 Prime. She has an Enter ability which will allow us to look at the top 7 cards of our deck and put up to 2 black virtual class Signy to our hand. The rest of the cards are put to the bottom of the deck in any order. This is great as it allows us to build up advantage at any time, but is primarily used to add important black colored Signy like Melissa Kinrenka code 2434 and Lulu Suzuhara code 2434 to our hand. Our other level 1 Lyric will be Assist Toko level 1 Prime. She has an Enter ability which will allow us to drop one of our opponent's Signy's power by 8000 until the end of the turn. If the Signy's power drops to 0 or less, it is automatically vanished. So this is great for early game removal since at around level 1, very rarely is there a Signy with power over 8000. It is also great for reducing the power in the Signy zone where our Signy are too weak to fight them head on. On to the level 2s. First is Assist Lise level 2 Prime. She has a grow cost of 2 colorless Enter. She has a use timing of both main and attack phase, so we will be using her as a way to disrupt the opponent's plays. Her first ability is an Enter ability to return a Signy on the opponent's field to their hand. This is incredibly useful as it not only stops an attack during the opponent's turn, but also leaves an opening for you to deal damage to the opponent the next turn. Her second ability is also an Enter ability, which will allow us to add a Signy with the guard symbol from the trash to our hand for a cost of 1 white and 1 colorless Enter. This is also a solid follow-up for defending ourselves if we don't have a card with the guard symbol in our hand. Our last level 2 will be Assist Toko level 2 Prime. She has the same use timings as Ange, so she will also be able to disrupt. She has a grow cost of 1 colorless Enter. Her first ability is an Enter ability to drop an opponent's Signy's power by 12,000. This is great as not only could you stop the opponent from overpowering your Signy in any particular Signy zone, but you could potentially vanish their Signy due to rule action if the power drops to 0 or below. Her second ability is also an Enter ability, where if we pay the cost of 1 white Enter, we can add a white colored Signy from the trash to our hand. This sets up the following turn's plays as we could be grabbing an important combo piece or just a beater. The last part of the Lyric deck is the pieces. First we have Chime of the Blessed Key. With a 0 Enter cost, it has a simple but powerful effect. Draw 3 cards and discard 2. This is very important for getting to your key Signy and combo pieces. The last piece we will play will be Super Helesta Saber. The use condition is that we have a white and black Lyric on the field. With a cost of 2 colorless Enter, the effect on activation will allow us to add a white, black, and colorless Signy to our hand. This effect is very good for toolboxing out of our trash and adding Signy that can be played, as well as having a guard in our hand to protect ourselves during the opponent's turn. Most guard cards are colorless. Now we move on to the main deck composition. Let's start with the level 1 cards. First we play 4 copies of Servant Sharp. This is your standard Signy with the guard ability. She can be discarded from your hand to protect you from a Lurig attack. She also has the multi-enter ability, which means she can be used to pay for the cost of any color enter. Her Life Burst ability allows us to add any Signy from our trash to our hand. Next we play 4 copies of Sarah Hoshikawa, code 2434. This is a multicolored white and black Signy who is mainly here to pay for the black color enter costs. She can also be used to pay for white enter costs. As a multicolored Signy, she can also be retrieved from Ange level 1 Prime's assist ability. Next we play 4 copies of Melissa Kinrenka, code 2434. This is a black colored Signy with an enter ability to put the top 3 cards of our deck into the trash. This is important as it sets up a lot of effects such as Super Alesta Saber and even Ange and Toko level 2 Prime. Her second ability is a constant ability, which states that as long as there are 5 or more virtual class Signy in the trash, she gets power plus 5,000. A great ability which makes her slightly stronger than most level 1 Signy. She also has an incredibly powerful Life Burst. Her Life Burst ability allows us to pay a cost of 1 black enter and 1 colorless enter to reduce an opponent's Signy's power by 12,000. This effect will be great for stopping the opponent from overwhelming your Signy in battle or even vanishing them by game rule if the power is dropped to 0 or less. Next we have 4 copies of Ratna Petite, code 2434. She is a black colored Signy with an action ability where if she puts herself into the down state, we can give one of the opponent's Signy power minus 1000 for the turn. However, if we have 3 or more virtual class Signy on the field, instead we can give it power minus 2000 for the turn. This unit is very good for helping reduce the opponent's Signy's power so that even our weaker Signy can win in battle over them. However, it is also part of a very interesting combo. And now we arrive at the card that it combos with. Rounding out the level 1 lineup, we play 3 copies of Sister Claire, code 2434. She is a white Signy with an enter ability to put one of our Signy into the up state. This combos nicely with Ratna Petite, code 2434, as it allows us to either reuse her action ability or to use her as an attacker. Sister Claire has a second enter ability, but it's not used in this deck, so I won't even mention it. Sister Claire also has a Life Burst ability to target an opponent's Signy and give it the constant ability of being unable to attack, as well as drawing us a card. This is very powerful because it again can stop the opponent in their tracks. On to the level 2s, there actually aren't too many of them. First we have 3 copies of Mao Matsukai, code 2434. She is a multicolored white and black Signy similar to Sarah who can be used to pay for a black or white enter cost. She is just a body to be played at level 2. And rounding out our level 2 lineup will be the 1 copy of Kazaki Morinaka, code 2434. She is a black Signy and has an enter ability, but we don't use this effect in our deck. We are mainly using this Signy for her Life Burst ability. Her Life Burst ability targets one of the opponent's Signy and reduces its power by 12,000 if we pay a cost of 1 black enter and 1 colorless enter. So again, this card, you can consider it as kind of a 8,000 power vanilla, mainly used for its Life Burst, which is just an additional form of interruption to defend ourselves against the opponent during our turn. Now we get to the real power behind the deck, the level 3 Signys. First we play 4 copies of Mikoto Rindo, code 2434. She is a white Signy with 13,000 power, which is higher than the average power of most level 3 Signys. Due to this, she has no natural effects as mainly played for her high power and Life Burst ability. Her Life Burst ability states simply that we can choose an opponent's Singing in the up position and put it into the trash. This is a very powerful ability, as not only does the opponent not get the usual resource of Enter from when Singing is vanished, but unlike the other removal in this deck, the opponent doesn't even get the Singing back to their hand. Next we play 2 copies of Lulu Suzuhara, code 2434. She is a black Singing. Her first ability is a constant ability, which states that we will not move cards to the trash from our Life Cloth zone due to refreshing the deck. This is a great ability because it means we essentially do not have to worry about self-damage to our Life Cloth from refreshing the deck. Her second ability is an action ability, which will reduce an opponent's Singing's power by 10,000 and send the top 10 cards of our deck to the trash if we pay the cost of 1 black Enter and 1 colorless Enter. This is a setup ability to load the trash with Singing that we can return back to our hand, either with Super Alesta Saber or Ange or Toko level 2 Prime's Enter abilities. Next we have 3 copies of Arzamal, code 2434. Her first ability is an action ability which can be used once per turn. If we pay the cost of 1 white Enter, we can reveal any number of virtual class Singing in our hand, and she will gain power plus 1000 until the end of the turn for every Singing we revealed. This is important because it combos with the next ability. Her next ability is an auto ability which triggers when Arzamal attacks. When Arzamal attacks, if her power is 20,000 or more, we can discard a card, and if we do, we can return a Singing on our opponent's field back to their hand. This is a really powerful ability as it can be used to clear a Singing zone where your opponent's Singing are bigger than yours in battle and you cannot win. And it can also open a path to deal damage to the opponent. 20,000 power is a lot though, but this is where Center Ange level 3's action ability comes into play, as it gives 4,000 power, which will bring Arzamal to 16,000 power. If we reveal 4 Singing in our hand with Arzamal's action ability, that will bring us to the 20,000 power needed and trigger her ability. Finally, we play 4 copies of Himawari Homa, code 2434. She is a white Singing with a very important auto ability. Her auto ability triggers at the beginning of the opponent's main phase. The auto ability checks the top card of our deck and reveals it. If it is a virtual class Singing, Himawari Homa gains the Shadow ability. With the Shadow ability, it means that she cannot be targeted by the opponent. This is incredible as a defensive card because it means that it cannot be targeted by all of our opponent's card abilities, including Life Burst. Himawari Homa also has an action ability which can be used once per turn. If we pay the cost of 1 white Enter, we can look at the top 3 cards of our deck, reveal 1 Singing from among them to add to our hand, put one of the remaining cards on the top of our deck, and put the last card on the bottom of the deck. This will guarantee that Himawari's auto ability will be successful in revealing a virtual class Singing, almost always. Our last 4 cards of the main deck will be 4 copies of the spell Fear and Slash. With a cost of 2 white Enter and 3 colorless Enter, the effect of this spell on cast will return a Singing on the opponent's field back to their hand. The Life Burst ability is the same ability. Because of the spell's high cost, it is most likely that this card is meant to be mulliganed away to try to have it show up in our Life Cloth. So now we move on to the combos of the deck. I will showcase 3 types of combos: the early game, mid game, and late game combos of the deck. Starting with the early game combos, first let's look at the ideal mulligan. So this is our field, and this is our hand. So your initial hand, ideally you want to see at least 1 copy of Melissa, Ratna, Servant Sharp, Arzamal, and Sister Claire. Now, the actions going forward here will depend on if you went first or second. So we will conduct this first combo as if we were going first. So, conduct the draw for a turn, enter charge, grow phase, main phase. Now coming to the main phase, because we went first, we will always want to start with Melissa Kinrenka. So her on-play ability will put the top 3 cards of her deck into the trash. Now, moving onwards, you can play your second Melissa Kinreka that you drew, which was, this one was completely luck-based. I didn't think I was going to draw a second copy. Which will load the trash, and now that the trash is loaded up with enough Signy, we have the 5 for her constant ability, so these are both 7Ks. You can assist Glow into your Lise level 1 Prime to recover your hand size. Because we played 2 Signy, we only have a hand size of 3. And we only drew 1 because we went first. So let's look at the top 7. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And recover our hand size, so I believe we only have these 2 targets. These are the only black colored Signy we can add to our hand. So let's do that. The rest of these go back on the bottom of the deck. And that's the initial turn if you went first. So now let's look at the combo for the early game if we had gone second. So we will have the same setup. So this is our field, and this is our hand. So we will have the extra card because we went second. And now instead of opening with Melissa Kinreka, we can start with Ratna Petite. So with Ratna Petite's action ability, we can put her into the down state in order to drop an opponent's Signy by 1000 power. Now with Sister Claire, we can put this back into the up position. And then after this, we can assist Glow into our Toko level 1 Prime to open up a spot on the field. With her ability, she will drop an opponent's Signy's power by 8000, which will most likely vanish it. And then you will have 2 spots where you can attack the opponent's life cloth directly. After this, you can assist Glow into Lise level 1 Prime if you want to recover your hand size. And that's the first early game combo. So now let's look at the mid game combo. So this is our field, and this is our hand. The important thing about the mid game is that you do not need any specific Signy in your hand or on the field, because we are going to be using this stage of the game to try and prepare for our end game. How you prepare is determined by where you went first or second, as well as whether or not you want to take an offensive or defensive stance. Because we went first, let's try going for an offensive stance. So planning ahead, we will be looking to dig into our deck to try and find our offensive level 3 Signy. These include Arzamal and Lulu Suzuhara. There are a few ways to do this, so let's start with the most simple, which is digging into the deck directly. We can do this with the piece, Chime of the Blessed Key. This will allow us to draw 3 cards and discard 2. So we will use this to try and fire our endgame Signy. So let's do that. Activating the piece, we will draw 3 cards. And luckily, in this draw we were able to find both Lulu Suzuhara and Arzamal. After this, we will discard 2 cards, so let's discard the Ratna Petite and the Sister Claire. The piece is then excluded from the game. Now looking at our hand, it looks pretty simple and complete. However, we are missing a card with the guard symbol. This is important because if the opponent decides to take an offensive stance, we could get blown out of the game really quickly and possibly lose. So let's try and dig our deck to try and find a card with the guard symbol. So we'll start by playing a copy of Melissa Kinreka. This will mill 3 cards from the top of our deck. When I say mill, I mean send cards from the deck to the trash. Nothing yet. In fact, why don't we play 2 Melissa Kinrekas? So this one will also send 3 cards from the top of the deck to the trash. And it looks like we found a Signy. Now we can try and retrieve it with the piece, Super Helesta Saber. So let's go ahead and activate the piece. This costs 2 colorless enter, so we can pay any enter that we want. The piece effect allows us to add a white Signy. So let's go ahead and add Arzamal. A black color Signy. Let's go ahead and add Ratna Petite. And a colorless Signy, in this case, Servant Sharp, to our hand. So we will add these 3 Signy from the trash to our hand and exclude the piece from the game. After this, we have a field limit of 5, so we can play any level 2. Let's go ahead and put down Mao. Or we could put down Random Petite, but Random Petite is pretty weak, so that's not good. And with that, we are now prepared for the end game. One important thing to note during the mid game is that your assist lyrics should be level 1. During your opponent's next turn, before you grow to level 3, you will want at least one of the assist lyrics to be level 2. This will give it the +1 limits bonus, which will allow us to have a total limit of 7 when we hit level 3. So now we come to the endgame combos. So this is our field, and this is our hand. The important thing to note about the NIJISANJI deck is that it does not have access to the finisher keywords. What are the finisher keywords? If you'll notice in the Towel Center deck, the deck has access to the abilities of Double Crush and Assassin. NIJISANJI does not have access to either of those abilities. In fact, it doesn't even have access to the Lancer ability. How does it deal its damage then? NIJISANJI deals most of its damage by returning the opponent's Signy to their hand and leaving an open field in order to deal damage directly. It can also drop the opponent's Signy's power to 0 and vanish them by rule action. So because of this, NIJISANJI doesn't have a defined final turn. It deals its damage over waves of turns. Because NIJISANJI deals their damage over waves of turns, we can assume that the endgame combo will be repeating the moves in this turn until the opponent is out of life cloth and we win the game. So starting off, assuming we went first, we can assume that our Center Ange level 3 opened up a hole in the opponent's field. This is because Center Ange level 3's enter ability returns one of the opponent's Signy back to their hand. It also allows us to draw a card. Assuming we grew into our Assist Toko level 2 Prime last turn, there should be a second hole in the opponent's field. We can assume that when her enter ability dropped one of the opponent's Signy's power by 12,000, it vanished it by rule action. So because of that, we only need to play one offensive Signy in order to open up the last hole in their field and give them 3 direct damage for the turn. So in this case, we will play Arzamal and activate her action ability. Her action ability will pay 1 white enter and allow us to reveal any number of Signy in our hand to give her power plus 1000 for each one. So we will reveal 4 Signy of the virtual class and give her power plus 4000. After this, we can use Ange's action ability in order to give Arzamal power plus 4000 for the turn. This will bring her to the 20,000 power threshold that she needs to activate her other ability. After this, let's put a little bit of defense on the field. So let's do this with Himawari Homa. And we can activate Himawari Homa's action ability where we pay 1 white enter. And look at the top 3 cards of our deck. We can add 1 copy of Himawari Homa to our hand. We will put the Furin Slash on the bottom of the deck. And we will put the Lulu Suzuhara on top of the deck. The Lulu Suzuhara is a virtual class Signy, which means that at the start of the opponent's next main phase, she will gain the Shadow ability, being invulnerable to all of their effects. And now filling our field with a limit of 7, we can play almost anything. So let's go ahead and play Rat Petite. We don't want to be playing the Melissa because that would screw up our deck. After this, you can just swing into the opponent's 3 open Signy zones. This will not be enough damage to kill them, but it should deal great damage, and if you repeat this every turn, eventually they will run out of life cloth, assuming they don't have a response during the defense step. And that's it! That's the end of the deck profile. What do you think of the Center Ange deck profile? How has it performed for you? Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe below, and let me know your thoughts on the deck. Also, let me know how your tournament scene has been going, as Wixoss has been out for about 2 weeks now, as of the recording of this video. I will come back with more Wixoss content very soon, So be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.